recording. And Carl, you can go ahead and mute all and kick off.
Okay, we are recording. Welcome to everyone to the Winnakee Dutchess Trails Roundtable. I'm Carl Beard. I'll be hosting today, standing in for Kathleen, and in the pit here, managing today's event, we have Dave Cliffon and Kathleen from both from Winnakee Land Trust. And they're also on with us, I think, most of the members of the Trails Roundtable Planning Committee, including Emily Dozier from Dutchess County Transportation Council, Bob Wills from Winnakee. Brenda Cagle may be on, I haven't seen her name yet, from Red Hook. Daniel Jeanson and Beth Campochiaro from Greenway. Warren Rosenthal from Winnakee Land Trust. And somewhere in there, Carl Meyer from Winnakee might be lurking as well, but I haven't seen him yet. The field's getting pretty thick here. Anyway, again, I'm Carl Beard. I'm previously with the National Park Service Rivers, Trails, and Conservation Assistance Program, Trails Planner, now tagged as a volunteer to this and a couple of other projects in the Hudson Valley. This is the Winnakee Dutchess Trails Roundtable, and our purpose is to bring people together in a forum with presentations and open discussion to foster the development and sustainability of trails, both locally and regionally, through networking, information exchange, things like that. So this is, we have these roundtables about quarterly, 4 times a year. And the next one, I'll show you the agenda in a minute, will be on January 18th, 2022. That's our target date. I'm going to share my screen so that we can talk about the agenda. Now, can people see that now?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'll just walk you through the agenda very quickly. We have a couple of featured presentations today. They are the Hudson Highlands Fjord Trail Project with Amy Kacala, longtime planner with Scenic Hudson, now the executive director of the Hudson Highland Fjord Trail Project. One interesting thing we'll do today is we'll have a couple of poll questions that we'll sprinkle through the program. So you'll see that on the agenda. Our second presentation will be about the Beacon Hudson River Trail with Tom Wright, who's the chair of the Beacon Greenway Committee. And then we'll have some regional trail updates from a number of organizations, Greenway, and a number of people who have gotten in touch with us ahead of time. And then we'll have another couple of poll questions, and then we'll open the floor to brief updates from whatever is going on in your community. We'll be able to, you know, kind of pass the microphone around. And again, our next roundtable will be in January. Now I want to show you the next thing. We have some announcements and links that we'll mention through the program. These will be sent to you. You don't need them to look at them much here, but they'll be sent to you in a follow-up email if we have your email address after the program, or you'll be able to check in on the recording of the program. As I said before, this program is being recorded and it'll be posted on the Winnakee Land Trust website. So that's our plan for today. I'm ending my share. So, David, have I left anything out of what I need to say right away?
Don't think so. How about Kathleen? Anything else?
I don't believe so. I think you've said everything.
Let's forge ahead. I'm anxious to hear from Amy. First up is Amy Kacala, mentioned before, the executive director of the Fjord Trail Project. This is one of the I don't know. After the Empire State Trail, and we actually do have Andy Beers, I see, on the program today. This is going to be another of a constellation of major trail projects in the Hudson Valley, and linking from Cold Spring to Beacon. And I think there's a lot to learn from it, a lot to be impressed by. Amy, I want to turn over the program to you, and I'm going to go on mute. So I mean, I will just, my cries of awe, won't be audible to anybody else in the program. This is a very cool project. I hope you agree. So take it away, Amy.
All right, thanks. Hopefully after that intro, I won't disappoint. And Andy Beers can try to give me some soft questions at the end. I do want to also acknowledge that we have Katrina from Hudson Highlands Land Trust and Hank Osborne, and they're on our steering committee. So thanks, guys. And here's our steering committee. So Hudson Highlands Fjord Trail, we are now a subsidiary nonprofit of Scenic Hudson, and sort of created to build and ultimately manage this, what we're now calling a linear park. And I'll describe what made this go from a trail to a park. But this is the cast of characters working with us to make this happen. It's a steering committee of 20, and that includes these regional nonprofits, metro agencies, 4 municipalities. We cross 2 county lines, 4 state agencies heavily involved, and then community-based nonprofits, which is where this whole project really began. We had completed a master plan, and I presented to this group a few years ago with this master plan, where we had really focused on safety in the breakneck area and come up with this trail connection that could connect the 2 communities. So in red was the route. We went out to bid. We had breakneck come in way over budget. We started the environmental review process on this master plan, and the group that came out to the first public hearing on that really was saying, we need, more visitor management and, lots of interest in seeing different ways that this trail would connect to Cold Spring. And we took both of those things happening as an opportunity to step back, think about what this project really could be if we made it happen, more than just a trail, and the sort of the visitor management aspects that it could offer to deal with real congestion issues, which I think is a recurring thing nationally and certainly within the state, as places become hot spots, and how do you manage that? So the resulting master plan that we worked up with state landscape architects looks something like this. This is a vision diagram. And so what this really seeks to convey is sort of a slightly revised route alignment where we connect from Beacon to Cold Spring, going waterfront to waterfront before we'd focused on train stations. And then offering different little amenities as sort of indicated with these icons for different side experiences, views, park amenities like bathrooms and other things integrated into this to really create a park. And so while we kept our grounding in all of the, safety first, thinking of the original master plan, we did also want to just really highlight the landscape, the ability of this project to reconnect people to the river, where that access has been long cut off by the railroad, and what opportunities did that open up, and really just think about the ecological character of the landscape as we go through this really wonderful Highlands area. And so the kind of concept of the master plan in terms of how this builds out into a park looks something like this. We'll layer this through. The main trail, which would be a shared use path, multimodal path that connects, and that's now 7.5 miles long. Different entry areas where there might be parking and signage, maybe bathroom and other amenities that would be added in. Different trail banks was a concept that Scape came up, and these are areas where you might have more improvement. Either it's highlighting a view, it's creating an opportunity to interact with nature. It has maybe a little space that's been created for, spending more time basically. And the main trail itself, we want it to be as sort of consistent as possible as you go through, so we could minimize the amount of wayfinding and any sort of distraction on the landscape. So where you're at grade, you're looking at crushed stone. If you're elevated, your hopefully a wood structure going over a little culvert or gully. And where you're along the coast, perhaps on the shoreline, perhaps any place where you'd have constant or repeated wet. We use sort of the same visual concept of the wood boardwalk, but put it to a concrete plank so that it could withstand sort of that wet, especially if it has any salinity from the river in it. And meanders off of the main trail. So the main trail would have these different side experiences. So you could go through and have, a bluff walk to look at Bannerman's Island, or up to a little culvert and stream area. So different little side experiences people could have. So it's not just this one experience of the linear park, but also different side explorations that you could do. Those would be different lengths and not necessarily ADA, as we hope the rest of the project is. And all of this is in 4 different ecological landscapes. So we always talk about the project from south to north. So main trail and the side experiences all go through the river's edge, the highlands, the forest zone, and marsh. And we've heard most about Breakneck here. So Breakneck is in the highland zone. And we have destinations, kind of key destinations, and hopefully family-friendly destinations in each of those zones. And we tried to play with sort of the materials palette of each. So in River's Edge, we have a serene beach and a nature play area. And so the serene beach is a sandy beach. It's the existing beach, and sort of cleaning that up and managing it. It has, as other places along the river, sort of a constant water chestnut and driftwood challenge. So really looking at how that could be maintained so that it could always be accessible without, stabbing your child's foot. And then creating a new area that would be a play area. So the concept here is that it's a nature-based play. This is still subject to design, but some of the ideas here is that you're playing with some natural materials. You might also have some equipment that's custom designed that maybe highlights some of the animals in the landscape, and sort of serves as an education, but playful education tool there. In the Highland zone, we have the upper Overlook, lower Overlook, and Scramble. And this is the upper Overlook. So right now the trailhead for Breakneck is right here. We'd be moving that up to this location here. And this would become an improved staircase. So this is the upper Overlook where folks can just enjoy the view. This is essentially existing paths that are demand paths up there. We would just be cleaning it up a little bit and adding a steward station here for the New York, New Jersey Trail Conference trail stewards who do the orientation and screening. On the lower Overlook, just underneath that, where Shoreline Trail comes around from the river's edge up to the Breakneck area, there's this opportunity for a lower Overlook. And so that's just potentially a toes in the water moment. Kayaks could come up. There is a little sandy area, but a great view here of the Highlands. Also in the zone, we're calling it the Boulder Scramble Play Bay. So here is a little gathering area, seating, this is right by where the trains arrive for Breakneck stop. And as you have potentially 500 people coming off of the train, it allows people a place to settle in, but it also provides a little kind of scramble play, sort of a breakneck experience for young children who could just kind of play on the rocks there. In the forest zone, continuing north, we have the forest nest is the concept. So here the idea is that you're elevating people into the tree canopy. They're able to look down at the restored understory and just play and hang out. So looking at how this could set in the landscape, but again, this will be subject to additional site design. But the concept is you have this sort of community space, maybe some other side explorations off of this with more interest. And in the marsh zone, so we're here about Fishkill Creek and in Beacon, there's a marsh walk and some habitat kind of viewing opportunities. So in the marsh walk, you could be, it's a fairly wet area, you could bring through possible opportunities to view some of the eagles, but with a screen, or look at some of the, swamp life there in the marsh, and just have that nature viewing opportunity. In Madam Brett Park, we're looking at this idea where we're creating a bank that ultimately sea level rise will push and there will be water to here. So it becomes sort of a peek through bank. It could be an outdoor classroom. It's a great opportunity as this steps up to look out over that causeway and all of the great habitat there. Some more ideas, and this could be used for great education space and other activities. So when you roll it all together, that's where we are as the vision. And this is all in various stages of environmental review and design. The piece we're moving forward through design first is where we began. And the last time around, we wanted it to be breakneck connector, it goes to construction first. So back in the day, this was again, functional, just connecting the train station to the trailhead. And here's where we are now. And so some of the features we just reviewed, the upper overlook, lower overlook, and Scramble trail bank here. We're also adding in bathroom facilities, the trail connection through, and an additional parking lot, and formalizing the on-street parking here at on 9D to make that safer for travel. So the buildings here, just the two on the upper overlook, the steward station and the bathroom facilities. The bathrooms would be a cluster. These are composting toilets, and they'd be clad in stone and wood mix. That's a nice little design, and have a sort of a courtyard area for lines to form. On the upper overlook, the steward station, this would be sort of a design build structure. You can see the components here, hopefully green roof and some pergola in space just to allow some light through. Coming together, something like that. And then the bridge that we're building. So this is right here, a bridge that comes along. And so the project will end right about here right now. And then as you continue south later, in a later phase, that would be Shoreline Trail, continue around the point. But the bridge connection is about like this. So repeating arch bridge with a weathered, pre-weathered steel underneath and a wood deck. And then we're trying to keep the railing and track enclosure on top as light and thin as possible. So it almost falls away. And when you put it all together, it looks a bit like this. So we're excited to be able to have some before and after photos. And this is obviously just the rendering. But a sense of timetable, we hope, breakneck's in permitting right now. We hope to go to construction next year, working on a finalized timeline with permitting and procurement pieces in this. A great partner, we should note, is State Parks in this. We will be procuring breakneck writ large, but the bridge construction itself will be advanced by State Parks. So it's been a huge partnership effort in getting to this point, and certainly as we move forward. I don't know if there's any questions.
Yeah, if people do have questions, please put them in the chat for Amy, and we'll read them off to her. We'll pitch the questions. Amy, I was looking at the timeline there, and I was just trying to wrap my head around what it's like. So actual construction, you're thinking on that first phase will begin next year, and with now how much, which elements are in that potential?
That's the breakneck connector piece, so that last piece. So all of the park improvements, the bathrooms, the bridge.
Bathrooms, bridge, and then that stuff on the upper level, including the steward station.
Yeah, I can go back to this here.
Okay.
Oh, it's this, basically.
Okay, that's the
So
visual.
The trail, improve, new platforms for Metro North are also in that. Basically reworking this whole space, formalizing the parking, and then the bridge. So all of that work and the upper overlook improvements would all be happening on the same timeline.
That's very impressive. So is Metro North also enhancing the whistle stop there, there's a trailhead, and for people who don't know, there's you can come up on Metro North and stop. The train will stop for you to get off and hike, and you can be picked up afterwards. Will that facility be enhanced as well?
Yeah, so through us. So this is Metro North property. We'll be having a long-term lease with them for our ability to construct and operate the park. Similarly, this involves a number of land transactions and air rights for the bridge. So what we have promised with Metro North, we're this fall going to be putting in fencing. So that should start any time now. That's sort of an early safety improvement. And you may, if you drive by this, see some tree clearing. That's Metro North clearing, so they can almost rough in a little bit of a better pedestrian connection for now. And then we'll formalize that with this trail when we go in. So, but there are some early safety improvements that are happening because this train station has been closed for almost 2 years and they would like to open it. It does have 6 trains a day on the weekends. And so it does have fairly regular service when it is running. And obviously Metro North would love to start selling some tickets again. When we make these improvements, we'll be adding in 40-foot platforms here. So right now, as you know, it's sort of yellow staircases to nowhere out in the middle of the railroad right of way. So that'll all be fenced in and closed with platforms added in as part of this project.
Okay, thank you. Again, if people have more questions, put them in the chat. If you don't think of a question right away, still put it in the chat and we can get back to Amy later. Thank you, Amy. This is, I don't know if to what extent people are familiar with the Breakneck area and that Hudson Fjord Gorge area. This is one of the most dramatic and most intensely used sections of trail. One question has come in, and that is how soon can a section be accessible by bike? This is looking ahead a couple of years. Amy.
This section will be available when it's open. So hopefully late 2023 or early 2024. But it depends on, we're phasing in a number of pieces of this simultaneously. So we're currently already starting to design Shoreline Trail. We're at 30% design with that right now. And hopefully that will move forward. But the construction of that will be a fairly slow process. So when we might connect from Dutchess Manor, which I failed to mention, we purchased Dutchess Manor as our future headquarters and visitor center. So we would like that trail connection from the visitor center to Breakneck also to be open. So that's not answering your question. We don't have those construction timetables worked out just yet, but it's sort of in the 5-year zone.
Okay, that's helpful. And for people who don't know, Dutchess Manor is just north of this area. How far from the tunnel is that facility? Do you have
It's about a mile.
Okay, that's my recollection. It's a sort of reddish place off on the riverside of the road as you come down there. Okay.
A few more questions.
Yeah.
How many cars can be accommodated in parking, and what are the actions to be taken to encourage public transportation?
Great question. So in Breakneck alone, there will be about 145 parking spaces. We are working on a more system-wide, and again, in partnership with state parks, but looking at what other parking lots. So the master plan includes some parks, has some ideas for 1 or 2 others, and how we might serve them as an HHFT, provide a shuttle that would go between those parking lots and the train stations, just kind of go up and down through our park area, hopefully with fairly good lead time. So we'll be starting a parking and trolley study later this year to help identify sort of the level of service we would need for that to function well, and look at the total number of parking spaces. But I think we did a rough count, and we're just not 1,000 spaces in this system, not counting the train station parking, which is available on the weekends, but we can't really advertise that. So in the park system itself, that is a system capacity piece, but we do want to encourage people to arrive by train, take the shuttle, because parking will always be a limiting factor here.
Great, thanks. And a couple of related questions related to each other. One is about the eco-friendly design of the trail. And was a question about sea level rise and storm surge resiliency. And I think related to that is a question about, we mentioned, concrete on the walkovers. And question is about whether that will be eco-friendly concrete mixes or consider recycled plastic. Or other materials. What are your sort of elevation of materials questions? I guess that's the.
We haven't gone into specs on what that planking might be, so I don't know that I can answer that one. But the sea level rise design, the whole project is designed for sea level rise, and we looked at the high projection for this area. So all of this is designed and elevated up. So that shoreline trail, we have, I think we're at 8.3, 8 feet 3 inches.
Great, thank you.
Hey, Carl, I had a quick question. What, Amy, could you say what your budget is? I mean, I know it must be a very large number, but just give us a sense of order of magnitude for design, engineering, and construction.
I'm always shy about money. This is an expensive project, so Breakneck. You speak to me a day after getting budget updates, so it's or cost estimate updates. So, but we are, trying to hold around 50 million for Breakneck and Bridge.
I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry. What was that?
It was a large number.
Was it? Did I hear 50? I couldn't hear you clearly. Just for Breakneck
And Bridge.
and Bridge. So we're looking at a total project cost of 100 million.
Probably higher than that.
Oh my
150.
gosh. All right. No, this is on a whole different world scale. So my other question to you then, what is your roughly how does those sources of funds break down, you think? I mean, just like orders of magnitude, just to get a sense of.
We're predominantly at this point in time privately funded through charitable contributions to the project. We have a number of state grants. DEP is contributing a nice amount to the construction of the bridge because they'll be able to use the bridge as it connects them to their facility. So that was a great partnership effort there.
Gotcha.
So we, not all funding in hand. We are going to start active fundraising and always seeking state grants when those opportunities arise.
It's entrepreneurially funded. I think it's fair to say. This is, the social and environmental benefits to this will be very significant, in the long run. And this is an incredible asset in the Hudson Valley. So yeah, and it costs money. It just does. So thank you, Amy. Again, and we may get back to you with more questions, but we should move on the agenda. David, do we have a couple of poll questions for you? These first couple of questions are about our thoughts about a potential trail symposium for the Mid-Hudson region to take place in 2022. So Dave, I'll ask you to post those questions.
And for those who see the survey pop up, just answer the question quickly. For those who don't worry about it. There'll be a Survey Monkey survey coming from Kathleen and follow. So let's put up the 2 questions. We'll start with the first one, and about 30 seconds we'll show the results. Hopefully you see something on the screen and make your choice.
Again, if you see that on your screen, please answer. If you're by phone or anything like that, please be patient.
Yeah, it could be read for those who are on the phone. It does say, would you be interested in attending or participating in a trail symposium that offers multiple presentations on a variety of trail related topics, training sessions, etc., over the course of a day. So, okay, we'll end the poll and we can see the results. And hopefully we can see that, right? Can that be seen?
Yes.
All right, there's our results. Looks pretty positive. All right.
43% extremely interested, only 43% very interested, for a total of 86%. So anyway, yeah, thanks.
Okay,
Yeah, strong interest by this tool, measuring tool, and we'll keep sampling as we go along. Care to pitch another question, David?
Sure thing. It's from Kathleen. Says, would you attend the Mid-Hudson Trail Symposium in person with COVID restrictions and safety practices in place? Okay, seems like it's slowed down. Let's share the results here. And all you, Carl.
Most likely.
Yeah, most likely and very much. Yeah, total of what, 70%, not likely 30%, very understandable. These are wild times for any contemplation of a social gathering. So this is what we're trying to learn about. And again, we're trying to forecast as best as anybody can what might be conditions in 2022. We just don't know. So thanks for sharing your thoughts with us on that. Okay, shall we?
Wish on?
Yeah, move ahead. Okay, our second presentation is about the Beacon Hudson River Trail, City of Beacon. You just heard a pretty phenomenal, large scale, project in some of the most important, natural landscapes of the Hudson Valley, of the Hudson corridor. I'm going to transition right now to working what it's like to work in an urban area, one of Dutchess County's major cities, Beacon, and how people move around in that community and connect outward from that community to the resources around. We have Thomas Wright, who's the chair of the Beacon Greenway Trail Committee. Tom, are you, or Cleveland, as you prefer to be called, on your call out today, you ready to show us?
Yes, I am, if everyone can hear me.
We can. Take it away, sir.
Hi there, and thanks, Carl, for the reminder that Amy is a tough act to follow, but I'm going to do my best.
No, you're working in an intensely different world, man. Here, this is this is good stuff. Go away. I mean, go and take it away.
Good afternoon. My name is Thomas Wright, and I'm the chair of the Beacon Greenway Trails Committee. On behalf of the committee, I would like to thank the Winnakee Dutchess Trails Roundtable for the opportunity to present to you today. I will be presenting the Beacon Hudson River Trail and its origins, along with some background on the Beacon Greenway Trails Committee. This is an exciting time for trails in Beacon. As people flock to the Hudson Valley, more and more of them are discovering Beacon's walkability extends to a large and increasingly interconnected network of trails. Trails that expand our awareness of the natural beauty that surrounds us and connect us to the communities around us. I'm proud of what the Beacon Greenway Trails Committee has accomplished. I'd like to take a few moments to talk about these accomplishments and provide some background on the committee and its ongoing and future goals. The current committee was first founded as a group of citizen activists who organized around a shared goal for a continuous trail along the bank of Fishkill Creek from the Beacon MTA train station to the town line of Fishkill. We recognize an opportunity to string together existing and future Greenway Trail segments into a continuous trail that would place users as close as possible to the creek. We also recognize an urgency to get planning for this project done quickly, as the very things that were attractive about walking experience along the creek made this area attractive in terms of its potential for residential development. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Beacon, Fishkill Creek runs through its heart, but in spite of the close proximity, we found that much, if not most, of the creek remained inaccessible to the people who lived in Beacon and for those who visited Beacon for its thriving arts and outdoor recreation amenities. Here was a rich natural resource that was by and large off limits. Early walks confirmed the importance of our mission great blue heron, bald eagle, beaver, and other wildlife that of course made this their home, and the natural landscape transformed by a good-sized creek as it works its way to the Hudson River. We also very quickly realized the historical richness that was to be experienced along the way. Providing access to all of these assets and stringing them all together in the form of a beautiful walking path became our cause. We also, pardon me. We also, there we go. We also recognize the benefit of linking to existing recreation amenities, such as parks and regional trail networks, links that made all of them more valuable by the nature of their interconnectivity. We had some early help from a planner at Scenic Hudson named Mark Wildonger, who encouraged us to apply for a Hudson River Valley Greenway grant. In discussing the application, it was quickly decided that the best use of funds would be for a master plan that would comprehensively lay out a vision for the trail. Our thought was that once the trail was defined in terms of this document, it could then be brought to the city for adoption and thus memorialized, taking on the weight and force of city policy. We received grant funds and began diligent work with landscape architect Peter Karras on all aspects of the plan. By this time, there were several regular members of the committee who all took part in working with Mr. Karras on the creation of the master plan. Meanwhile, we continued to push our vision for the trail at council and planning board meetings. These early meetings were a challenge in that the decision makers were hearing about the Greenway Trail for the first time. Successes like Rocky Glen, where we lobbied to have the developer gift a 100-foot buffer along the creek to the city, were valuable not only in securing necessary access for a continuous trail, but also in educating city officials about the value of the trail and connecting citizens with these natural resources. This experience was also very empowering in that it proved what could be accomplished by showing up and speaking up. The speaking up continued. Eventually, then Mayor Randy Kacala adopted the committee as a city committee, further validating our efforts. The master plan was completed and adopted by the city in June of 2013. It was later adopted into zoning language for Fishkill Creek Development Zone. We are closer than ever to reap the rewards of planning and work that began over a decade ago. For example, 2 key segments of the Fishkill Creek Greenway and Heritage Trail will soon emerge as part of a development that is underway at 248 Tyranda Avenue and just across Wolcott Avenue at 2328 Creek Drive. Formerly the site of the city DPW yard, this parcel is a case study for working proactively with a property owner to achieve our goals. When it became clear that the city would vacate the property, we requested that the city engage their consulting engineer, Lankin Tully, to prepare a concept plan for the trail. In contrast to earlier projects where the committee reacted to developers' view of how the trail should be routed, in this case, we were laying out the trail, including easement, before the developer arrived on the scene. In fact, even before the property was sold to the developer. It was a turning point in our thinking about the planning process. We always wanted to stay ahead of development, which is why we recognize the value of the master plan. Arriving at a concept plan before the developer came a tactic to implement the strategy. We use these proactive tactics at a parcel locally known as Sisters. Sisters is the last remaining segment between 248 Tyranda and Madam Brett Park, owned and operated by Scenic Hudson. We again worked with Lankin Tully to develop the concept plan for the property. Working iteratively using the master plan as a guide, we placed trail and easement on topographical plans, bringing the concept plan much closer to something real and buildable. The trail of this parcel includes a route which closely hugs the creek bank, and although quite scenic, includes routing over steep topography. So we laid out a route that could be constructed to be ADA accessible. The committee has prioritized the planning for a trail gap between East Main Street and Roundhouse Park. This segment receives many visitors, partly because of its proximity to Beacon Falls and nearby shops and restaurants. The committee has proposed that funds be set aside by the city or procured through grants for schematic design exercise to explore ways to improve the experience and safety at this segment. One of the reasons this is such an important segment is that it brings Fishkill Creek Greenway and Heritage Trail and the future Beacon Line Rail Trail in close contact in a central portion of the city. As many of you are aware, the MTA recently announced the intention to abandon the Beacon Line. There has been speculation and discussion about the possible rail trail of this line for years, but it is only recently that the possibility became closer to a likelihood. To get an update on the status of the Beacon line and an idea of possible next step towards realization, I reached out to Chris White, Beacon's new city manager. Some of you may know Mr. White and his deep experience with rail trail development, as he was the driving force behind the Ashokan Reservoir Rail Trail in Ulster County. I'm very excited to pass along the news that the county has included the Beacon to Hopewell Junction Rail Trail development as a priority project in its recent long-range transportation plan. Mr. White and Mayor Kyriakou are meeting with the county executive this week. Moving the planning for the project forward will be one of their key topics. Mr. White says the next steps are identifying funding for the preliminary planning and perhaps applying for transportation funding, such as US DOT planning grant. The county is the sponsor, so it would apply with support from the city. The county's timeline, however, is 2025 to 2035, so the city of Beacon will be pushing for conversations about moving up project design and implementation. To that end, Mr. White suggested that he could coordinate between his contacts at New York State Greenway to try and facilitate funding to jumpstart the planning process. With a link to the Empire Trail, I would think that the New York State Greenway will look very favorably on the Beacon to Hopewell Junction Rail Trail when evaluating future grant proposals. All in all, very up-to-date and exciting developments for the rail trail along the Beacon line. The committee is excited about the rail trail and see it as yet another amazing component for an already robust trail and greenway network. Although we see the rail trail as a separate trail with its own unique experience and use types, the Fishkill Creek Greenway and Heritage Trail and rail trail will strengthen each other with their interconnectivity. In addition, the two trails will quite literally overlap at various points. There are several pinch points in the yet to be completed parcels to the north, where the amount of space between the rail line and the creek approaches zero. We look forward to the parallel planning process that creates a shared route on these locations. In addition to the practical benefits, the overlapping creates linkage points, places where users can effortlessly connect back and forth between these unique trails, increasing the value of both. We look forward to a near future when several trail initiatives, the Hudson Highlands Fjord Trail, Beacon to Hopewell Rail Trail, and the Fishkill Creek Greenway and Heritage Trail are complete and connected to the Hudson Highlands Trail Network, the Empire Trail Network, and the Appalachian Trail for that matter, to enhance quality of life well beyond the sum of the parts, to create a large and growing network of hiking, walking, biking, educational, and experiential excellence. All of which is a lengthy introduction to the main topic of my presentation, which is the Beacon Hudson River Trail. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, the Beacon Hudson River Trail is a proposed trail that will one day link the pedestrian path of the Newburgh Beacon Bridge with the MTA Beacon train station. In addition to the practical benefits of walking and biking link between Newburgh and Beacon, the trail passes through a very scenic wooded area and affords dramatic views of the river and bridge overhead. In 2014, the Beacon Greenway Trail Committee helped secure matching grant funds from the Hudson River Valley Greenway Conservancy to fund a master planning process led by Daniel Biggs of Weston and Sampson, with insight and review from committee members. That plan was presented to the City Council in March of 2017. In December of 2017, we again successfully applied for a grant through the Conservancy to prepare preliminary design plans for a pathway and related structures to the trail. It is a result of these efforts that I'm presenting this afternoon. The plan drawings and design report provides siting and layout for the trail as it works its way down from the elevation of the bridge path to a scenic bluff overlooking the river, along with MTA rail line to emerge along the MTA rail line to emerge at West Main Street, just a few steps from the Beacon train station. Key aspects of the design are as follows. 1, switchbacks and related retaining walls required to navigate the drop in topography between the bridge and the bluff just above the trail line. 2, a future connection to residential communities in the town of Fishkill on the north side of the bridge. Permissions, cameras, and security fencing are required by the Bridge Authority and are outlined in detail in the report. 3, a viewing plaza at the bluff will provide a unique view to the Hudson, bracketed by the dramatic bridge structure above. 4, an elevated portion of the trail which navigates the rapid change in topography between the bluff and the MTA rail line. 5, fencing locations and specifications as required by the MTA to keep trail users safe from the Metro North train station. The design report and plans describe the proposed trail in a way that makes the project real. It analyzes the site, describes the challenges, and proposes solutions to these challenges. It provides enough information to generate a preliminary budget study, which Mr. Biggs has provided. The committee has reviewed and approved the final draft of the design report. In the spirit of keeping the momentum going, applying for another Greenway grant is a logical next step, and the committee encourages this. The design report notes on page 18 that, quote, upon approval of preliminary design documents, the construction documents, including contract drawings and specifications, shall be prepared for bidding, end quote. However, given the costs and timeframe associated with a project of this scale, the committee has proposed a phased yet parallel effort. Page 17 of the design report states, quote, as a first phase, it would be beneficial to establish an informal soft surface trail alignment, set up access agreements and easements with property owners, and therefore enable access for interested trail users. The committee feels that this initial phase can begin immediately, even as grant funds are sought for final construction documents. An initial phase would focus on the portion of the trail between the pedestrian path and the bridge and the viewing plaza at the bluff above the rail line. This would leave the portion of the trail along the rail line inaccessible and off limits for the time being. This initial phase would include securing trail easements from property owners, which in this case is a single owner, the Bridge Authority. Easements are the critical element of this approach as it secures the legal access for the public to walk on and eventually across the private property. With easements in place, an informal trail could be constructed by volunteers or other low-cost methods, thereby quickly opening up this area for passive use recreation. In addition to the recreational benefits, bringing in users to the area would create awareness and support for the trail as a whole, further strengthening any future funding efforts. When I first presented the design report to the City of Beacon earlier this year, we made our case for this phased approach. Strategically and tactically, this approach emerges from our experiences with the Fishkill Creek Greenway and Heritage Trail. We recognize the importance of good overall planning and have sought to help through grant-funded, help through grant-funded consultants when such planning was beyond the capabilities of our committee. Proactive conceptual planning and pushing for easement access emerges from our desire to secure public access to the natural landscape and the adjacent greenway and trail networks. The committee has achieved a lot for the city's trail network by taking the long view, and we realize that these networks often require patience. The strategy of phased realization of trail access that I've outlined today is a way to expedite the process for the Beacon Hudson River Trail and the Fishkill Creek Greenway and Heritage Trail. However, my thinking has evolved in the 6 months since I presented the design report to the City of Beacon. Although I'm personally still committed to an approach that secures access to the public quickly, I wonder if such an approach is an example of not thinking big enough, not thinking ambitiously enough, and perhaps allowing priorities based on experiential considerations to limit possibilities for achieving something much bigger. In April of this year, I was contacted by a group from Newburgh, led by Naomi Herson Ringskog, promoting bicycle use and amenities. They accurately saw the potential for the Beacon Hudson River Trail as an important link for citizens of Newburgh and surrounding areas to the MTA Beacon Station. From our point of view, the funds sought through this grant would easily get us through to shovel-ready design documents. We saw it as a way to get closer to our goal of realization for the Beacon Hudson River Trail. The evolution in my thinking hinged on the question of the trail surface. Our work with the Fishkill Creek Greenway and Heritage Trail has promoted stone dust for surfaces throughout, since it is far more pleasant to walk on. However, asphalt would provide maintenance benefits and smoother, more reliable surface that might tip the balance from bike recreation to bike transit. Even though the connection to the MTH station was always key to the trail, I see now that our predisposition to favor stone dust was an indication of a bias in favor of recreation over basic transit. Our consultant had noted the transportation-related funding benefits of using asphalt. We rejected that approach at the time, but I question that position now. if it comes at the expense of a vital connection for bicycles to the train station or getting the trail built with DOT funds quickly. We now have the example of the rail trail, with Mr. White's suggestion that we go after DOT funding to expedite planning and implementation. I also think that we need to evaluate the purpose of the Beacon Hudson River Trail relative to its role in mitigating climate warming. I'm guessing that for many of us, the recent IPCC report called Code Red for Humanity by the UN General Secretary has elevated concern to existential reckoning. I, for one, have become practically obsessed thinking about the impacts of all my decisions on the worsening situation. The selection of the surface for the Beacon Hudson River Trail may act as a case in point. Stone dust is preferred, yet the choice of asphalt, given its possible benefits for use and maintenance, could mean an increase in non-vehicular traffic to the MTA Beacon station. The good news is that even on asphalt or some other impermeable surface, this trail would be quite lovely and provide access to a unique landscape. However, it is worth pausing to consider that for all of us, given the stakes, there is an urgency to deprioritize aesthetic preferences or convenience or recreational quality for maximizing the benefit to the urgently needed action on addressing the climate crisis. Emphasizing the transit-oriented nature of the Beacon Hudson River Trail also becomes an opportunity to educate others, many in decision-making position, to change their view of the purpose of a trail connection like the Beacon Hudson River Trail, and to give it the priority it deserves. In good weather, I ride across the bridge from Beacon to Newburgh daily on my way to work. It is a beautiful ride, but although I enjoy every bit of it, I don't see it as recreation, I see it as transit. Currently, the bridge is undergoing a massive renovation where the deck of the north span is being entirely replaced. Witnessing this reminds me of the vast sums of money required to keep cars and trucks on the road every day. It also reminds me that we take construction and maintenance of roads and bridges for granted. Infrastructure is practically synonymous with facilitating vehicular transit. I want to conclude by asking all of us to demand a reassessment of these assumptions. Why don't we insist on more than a tiny fraction of the funds allocated to cars and trucks be directed to trails and non-vehicular transit and access, recreational or otherwise? In addition to what these funds could do to improve the quality of life and landscape, such a change in perception would bolster efforts for transportation alternative and mitigating climate change. When I consider the trail and initiatives that we are actively pursuing in and around Beacon, indeed, when I consider the Fjord Trail itself, I have to acknowledge the emphasis on recreation and how there seems to be a dividing line between recreational use and transit use. Not only do I think it is necessary to question where this line falls, but I think it is past time for these projects to be seen as the vital infrastructure that they are. Yes, we've achieved a lot with activism, with grant funding and fundraising. We all need to push harder for awareness for what these projects do for the greater good and demand the public funding and public support that they deserve. Thank you. I look forward to questions.
Thank you, Thomas. That's a very impressive presentation, and you've hit on many major points. I think there's one note that comes up in the chat, and that is that tomorrow 9/22 is International Leave Your Car at Home Day. Good time to practice what we preach about biking to work, and thank you for that perspective, moving from trails to transportation. I'm afraid we're running out of time, and I'm afraid I'm going to have to truncate the Q&A, but I do want to pick up on a couple of things that you said. One is you talked, I think, the Rocky Glen project on the Fishkill Creek Greenway, doing a little section upstream. I think one of the things that you demonstrated and that I've learned over the years is the importance of a demonstration project like that, providing the ability for leaders and the public at large to get out and see what the heck it is that you're talking about. And that can be incredibly important, mind-changing, toward being able to jumpstart a project, moving it from concept to something tangible to a fundable project. The second part, and this picks up on our next thing, is the role of partner organizations like Scenic Hudson and Hudson Greenway in helping to kickstart these. And you mentioned a small grant from Greenway, maybe not so small, but in helping to develop those written plans, and that you're going that route again. I think you're absolutely correct on both of those. And with that, I'm going to use that as a segue to the next section of our presentation, which is to call on Greenway Beth Campochiaro from Greenway to talk about the Greenway Trails grants and what's going on there. So let me see. Let me see, Thomas, are you still sharing or?
I've given Beth co-host, so if she
Okay.
has something to share, she can.
Okay, Beth, do you have a slide to share? If you don't, I think I do.
That was muted. Yes, whoops.
Yeah,
Okay,
you
you got
should
it.
have it.
I
going.
had it, but I can go and grab it.
I can share mine if that
Okay.
helps.
Yeah, Carl has it.
Okay, sure. Because I can't be logged into my VPN at the same time I can be into.
Okay,
So
okay.
how
got
would
it. It's
I'm
up.
I'm sharing your
Oh,
slide
okay,
right now.
great. Well, it's just quick information. So we do have our Trails Grant Program through the Greenway. We just had a grant round close on September 10th, and those any grants that are awarded will be awarded at our October 13th board meeting. So the next board meeting after that being in December, the upcoming deadline is November 8th, 2021. And there's several categories for applications, and it includes construction and planning and design of trails. There could be trail rehabilitation and improvement. So if it's an existing Greenway trail, some kind of rehabilitation that goes beyond just general maintenance, which this grant program isn't intended to fund, but obviously large events can happen on trails, and they do get worn down and overused, and it's possible for that. And that includes amenities as well. And then there's trail education or interpretation, and that's kind of open-ended, but it's generally intended to be a way of enhancing the user experience along a trail, whether that's a companion map or it's signage, or maybe some trails might include like a walking tour, audio tour, or something like that. It's kind of open-ended, but we do want to emphasize in all of the applications that trails that link or make connections to the Empire State Trail or existing Greenway trails are our major priority, because that is the main way that we can increase connectivity using this grant program. So that's my contact information there. Email is the best way to get a hold of me. And you can contact me ahead of time, and we can talk about your ideas for your application and just see if you're kind of on the right track. I think everybody here pretty much has a good idea of what a trail grant should consist of, but we do have a grants committee that reviews all the applications and makes recommendations to the board of directors, who has to vote on any applications before they are funded. And the grants committee is composed of members of our board of directors. And then, someone had mentioned on the planning committee that they wanted to just hear about some of the Greenway trails that had been designated in this kind of, I guess, I don't know what we're calling it, off season of COVID. But Greenway trail designation just means that the trail becomes a part of the overall Greenway trail system, and we can promote it on our website. We can, it does come with some benefits from other other state programs for projects that have a designated Greenway trail. And then, so the pace of designations has slowed down, but when you receive a Greenway Trail grant, we do ask that when the project is completed and the trail is able to be used, that you request designation. And again, that's something that has to be approved by the board. But so the Catskill Creek, also known as Moignac Preserved Trail, was designated over the last year, and the Mohonk Preserved Foothills Trail. So, and those were both the result of Greenway Trail grants. And if anybody has any questions, I know we're running short on time. I can answer them now, or just use that email address and reach out to me. And
Great.
I believe that link, Dan Jeanson just popped up our grants and funding page on our website, but I believe that link is also on the agenda that was sent around.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, your contact, I'm not sure your contact information, but the link to the Greenway Trail Grant information webpage is on the follow-up email that people will get after the program. And, again, if you're speaking to the audience, if your trail is not designated a Greenway Trail, think about it, do it. It can get you points in future trail grants, and you'll be, it's good for you. is good. Anyway, so let's move along. I'm going to end my share. You people will see this information again. And yeah, Dan has put up the link to the Greenway Grants Program in the chat as well. Yeah, moving along, we have some news from Wallkill Valley Rail Trail from Cara Gentry with the Wallkill Valley Land Trust. Cara, would you like to give a quick report about what's going on there? You're muted at the moment.
Okay. All right. So that is not what I was trying to share. Wait, what do you guys see?
We see an opening page for a PowerPoint on the.
Okay, then I am seeing it showing the right thing. It's just on the wrong screen and it's confusing me. All right.
Keep it short, Cara.
Keep it short. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. If you're not aware, it's our Wallkill Valley Rail Trail is 22 miles long in Ulster County from Kingston to Gardner. We did perform a bunch of renovations in the northern section, and I've blew up the screen just so you can see it. Northern section, Kingston through Rosenthal last year. It's almost done. There's a few minor things to do of a punch list, but other than that, it's done. This year we are doing they are doing the section in New Paltz. Basically similar renovations from last year, improving drainage, improving surfacing, except they did decide to pave the section in the village of New Paltz that goes from Water Street Market to Mulberry Street, where there's going to, and at that corner, there is a new building going in called Zero Place that's going to have apartments and some storefronts underneath, and then public restrooms in the back. We have found out that people violently hate paving. This was not our decision to pave this. It was part of the whole big project, but we've gotten nothing but complaints on the paving part, which, by the way, portion of that was already paved. It just needed to be redone. But anyways, that's a different thing. The biggest kind of warning for everybody is there's a small bridge just barely south of the Springtown Bridge. That's the bridge that was featured in the Quiet Place movie. But if you're standing on that bridge and you're looking south, you can actually see this next bridge. That one will be out for hopefully only 4 weeks. Starting, we haven't gotten a direct date yet, but starting in probably mid-October and into November. So that will be a major closure. There's no way around. It's a very steep sides off the rail trail to go down into a swamp and into hunting a gun club property. So like not a good idea to go around no matter what. Lots of reasons to not. So that'll be a major detour onto the road for that section. And then the Gardner section is applying for funding to improve their section of the trail. And then real quick, in case somebody heard, I wanted to explain what happened as far as we know over Labor Day weekend. We have the Rosenthal trestle featured in a lot of the Empire State Trail photos and our Ulster County State of the Trails. That over Labor Day weekend caught on fire. So it wasn't severe. Basically, someone flicked a cigarette over the edge of the trestle and the railroad ties kind of stick out from the edge. I guess the cigarette caught on that, started smoldering. Someone called the fire department. By the time the fire department got there, which was only like 5 minutes, there were short flames starting, but they closed off Route 213 and were able to put out the fire. So that was our excitement for Labor Day. And then just last weekend, we had a volunteer day at the trestle to help with some basic maintenance of clearing vegetation that was overgrowing. And also these footings, we needed to get these inspected by an engineer. So we had all of the dirt and stuff cleared off of that so that people, the engineer can come in and see them and do the periodic inspection they have to do. So that was it, really quick.
Thank you, Cara. It's yeah, it's good work on fire reporting, incident reporting, things like that. I guess the scary thing, those are creosote laden ties. They
Yep.
burn, and my understanding is those the Trex type plastic decking also burns and melts at the same time. I think National Park Service discovered that the hard way, and we
Yeah.
no longer recommend it for our in-house structures. But thank you. Good update on Wallkill Valley. Again, another one of our major regional trails. From there, I'd like to take it to Winnakee and on the Winnakee Land Trust, Warren Rosenthal, and the Sawkill Trail system. So, Cara, can we give back? And Warren, are you? There you go. Take it away, Warren.
I should be sharing there now. Do you see it?
We do. Take it away.
Yeah, we do.
Okay. All right. So this is an active project as we speak. Actually, tomorrow evening, I'll be meeting with the town of Red Hook town board. Hopefully, they will approve this this project at that time. Essentially, what we've done here is designed a trail system that will connect ultimately from the town of Red Hook Village all the way to the Bard campus. So our portion is on land that we purchased last year from 2 private landowners. And in close cooperation with the town of Red Hook, we purchased that land with their assistance, and we're also working cooperatively to design and construct this trail. It's hard for us to follow some of the trails systems that we've seen today, because this is very basic. We're trying to keep the cost down as much as possible. And get it accomplished relatively quickly. So the first phase, actually, we're hoping to be open within 8 weeks, which would be from here, the existing parking and trailhead. There's a kiosk there, across this white area, and all the way down to the lookout over the Sawkill. It's a pretty little spot. There'll be like a bench there. And the other part of the first phase will be from the end of First Street west over to here. Second phase will be this section right here, including this prefab bridge to Kelly Road. as well as this section here, going across Boardwalk to First Street. And then the final phase will be from Kelly West across, will be 2 easements getting to the Bard Alumni Parking Center. And then also the second phase would include this little loop trail here with a looking out over the marsh here. Total time to complete the entire trail system is probably 24 months. And our total budget, if you want to compare it to, let's say, 50 or 100 million or whatever, our total budget is only like 100,000. So totally different order of magnitude. But then again, obviously the trail surface is only going to be either dirt or grass, except obviously for the boardwalk section or for the small bridge. Anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Warren. Don't apologize for natural surface trails. Are some of the finest trails in our national parks and state park systems are natural surface trails. So yeah, these are entirely valid things. Let's not be scared off by big budget items.
We actually deliberately routed this way so that we could, in fact, avoid really having to get into any kind of or minimal permitting as well as minimal cost. So this was very deliberate on our part to try to get it up and running as quickly as possible.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you. Any follow-up, Warren?
Well, did you want me to quickly show the other 2 new trail systems, or
if you could do so quickly, that would be great.
Okay. All right. So let me just see. Let me stop this a second. Let me go back here. Okay. So our newest trail system is called Sister Hill Woods Trail. It's in the town of Stamford. It's 1.3 miles long. It's on a 76-acre parcel that was donated to us by the Sisters of Charity. It's a nice little trail system. It has a little loop, yellow trail loop, and then it connects to what was an old rail line that went from Poughkeepsie up to Pine Plains. And we have a small segment of that. That's part of our trail system. So it's very nice walk through the woods, and I encourage everybody to check that out. And then one other one here real quick, and then we'll be done. If I can find it, let's see. Where is it here? This is it. Second.
For the audience, I have to notice that Warren grows radios in his windowsill. Most of us have plants.
All right, so does everybody see that now? The Bly Marsh?
Yeah, I can see it.
We got it.
Okay. All right, so this opened up earlier this year. This is a beautiful new preserve that was donated to us earlier this year by a very generous benefactor. It's about 170 acres total, of which the majority of it is marsh. But we have a very nice little new trail system in here. The green trail loop and the yellow trail loop with beautiful overlooks of the marsh. And we also have a really cool installation of natural sculptures. So I encourage everybody to check it out. And again, this is about the same distance as the other trails. It's about 1.25, almost between 1.25 and 1.5 miles of total trails. Again, on all these trails, the surface is either grass or dirt, el natural. Okay, well, and this is in the town of Rhinebeck. And both of these should be on the Dutchess County Trails website. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Warren. And actually, maybe we should add the link to the Dutchess County Trails website to our follow-up email, just a note to our groups. Thanks, Warren. Good work. You know, honest trail labor. Let me see. Have you ended your share now? Your screen share? And I'd like to move along to hear about the Dutchess County Urban Trail Project with Emily Dozier with Dutchess County Transportation Council.
Okay, can
take it away,
people
Emily.
see? Great, thanks. You
We
can
can
see that? Okay, and I think I saw Jack Gordon's on the call today. So Jack, feel free to jump in. Jack is the design consultant for this project, which is a county project that actually our County Public Works Department is managing. So I got an update from our Public Works project manager just to share with you all. If you're not familiar, this is the website. It's DutchessCountyUrbanTrail.com. And if you just go to the about, just for a general overview, you can see a picture of the overall concept, which I think we've shared on these roundtable calls before, but it's basically a two-part kind of upside down Y shape, connecting a lot of things in the center of the city of Poughkeepsie, including the walkway and the rail trail, up to the Hudson Heritage Site and Marist College on the waterfront. So it's a very exciting project. I just want to share a couple updates, and the news and updates tab here is what I want to share with you. So Jack and his team is working on the detailed design, and they're focusing on that eastern leg to start. There's been a fair amount of public outreach, including the website, an open house on August 18th, which you can see some of the boards from this August 18th open house here. So you can see Kathleen and some others that you may know here. And feel free to, take a look at this on your own. There's some information about the overall timeline and some of the design details for each of the sections of this trail. They also did a survey which closed recently. They've had over 500 responses, and they're working on a summary of those results. But there is some general summaries of some of their public outreach on this site as well. In terms of construction, they're hoping to start next year. Phase 1, I'll go back to this image here. Phase 1 would be constructed in 2022, hopefully, and that will go from Parker Avenue, which is here, up to Hudson Heritage. So this section of the trail here. Phase 2, which would be the following year, would be the western leg, right here. And then phase 3, the Parker to North Hamilton, you might know the county's working on this Justice and Transition Center project. So some of that timing for that leg depends on coordination with that project. But basically looking at 2022 through 2024 for the construction. And Jack, do you want to add anything? Okay, he's muted. But anyway, I'll put the link to this website in the chat as well.
Great, thank you, Emily. Yeah, follow up on the website. This is an extremely exciting project, and if you don't know where it is, this is kind of part of it's right behind where Home Depot and Ocean State job lots and also that stuff is, right on Route 9 up to the old Hudson River Psych Center site, and with Marist College right on the other side of Route 9. It will be a very populated trail. I'd like to move right along now to the Harlem Valley Rail Trail with Dick Hermans from the Rail Trail Association over there. Dick, I understand you've got some news to report on your trail. Take it away.
Good. Yeah, we are, I didn't bring any maps or anything, but there's a section of trail from basically Under Mountain Road, which is the north end of the part that just got finished coming north of Millerton. It's in the town of Anchorman, Columbia County. From there up to Copake Falls, about 4 miles. When it was built, the state really hadn't gotten their act together in terms of specifications for trails, and was put in with just 2 inches of blacktop. So we have gotten a grant of Parks and Trails New York grant of $75,000. And Assembly Person Dee Dee Barrett has put in for another 125,000. And our association is going to kick in a little more there to bring us up to about a $225,000 to $240,000 project to totally repave this section of trail. It's all in the Taconic State Park, and hopefully the work will be done next spring, we hope.
Dick, that's fantastic news. You know, I think the source of that funding is actually the Environmental Protection Fund at the New York State, handled through PTNY. It's you know, the New York State partners out you know, this grant funding. Great use. You know, again, not to take too much time, but the Rails to Trails Conservancy, when they first opened their shop, one of their co-directors, Pete Harnick, said that the very first phone call that the first day when the very first phone call when his phone rang was from Harlem Valley Rail Trail Association, Eleanor Metler, calling him up to ask, hey, what can you do for us? We have this rail trail in Dutchess County, New York. This is kind of the beginning of that Rails to Trails movement, and it's so nice to see it keeping going. Thank you again, Dick. Let's move it along here again. We're going to run over time. We're coming up on our 2:30, and I beg people's indulgence. We're going to take another 10 or 15 minutes if that's okay with people. But I want to do keep moving along. Hyde Park Trail, Rob Pollard, are you on with something quick to report?
Yeah, I'm just going to keep it no video clips for you guys this time, so it'll be nice and quick. Basically, we're moving forward on still, maintaining trails. Things have been difficult because of the pandemic, getting volunteers, but we do have a CIA outreach group coming in next week to help reroute a water eroded area of one of our trails. And also Winnakee Nature Preserve, through a generous donation, we're able to get a few trail counters, which you all know is very key in helping you kind of justify your trails and where you should enhance your trails. And they've put them at Winnakee Nature Preserve, Marsh, which Warren had just shown you that new trail, and Burger Hill. And Burger Hill is showing great use also now the new trail counters in. So, the town's also going to hopefully get those with our next grant. Oh, so there's Kathleen showing you the counts. And
I'm sharing that.
Okay.
Cara.
Yeah, the tall blue is are the counts for Winnakee's Burger Hill Preserve, but yeah, that's like 8,000 per month on their peak month. But
that's the raw data, actually.
Okay. So this is going to be about half, 4,000.
Yeah, that one has to be cut in half.
Because it's out and back counts, so you have to cut the numbers by half. Anyway, but the important fact here is figuring out how many people use our trails, and this is something that we all celebrate. So hats off to Winnakee and to Hyde Park Trails for starting to get a handle on how many people are out there.
So, the town, once we finish up our Greenway grant, hopefully this year, maybe the next time around, the town can put in for some counters for themselves. And then also maybe the state parks would like to get some as well. And then we would have most of our partners with trail counters.
Agreed. Okay. Thank you, Rob. I'm going to stop this share. And Dave, would you like to pop up our final three poll questions?
Sure. Now that we're wrapping up, I think these are Kathleen proposed a few follow-ups, and here we go. You can just answer quickly. We'll get some feedback and evaluate that for our next meeting.
So question number one should be on your screen. Dave, you want to read it off?
Yep. How much of an impact do you feel the quarterly roundtable meetings have for you? So numbers are coming in. We'll wrap that up in just a second. Okay, let's share that. Looks like a lot of impact.
Yeah, 33% a great deal, 40% a lot, 20% a moderate. So we hope, we try to aim for some impact. Hopefully that impact is positive. But thank you.
Sure. In terms of convenience, question is how convenient were the online quarterly roundtable sessions? Okay, looks like we're looking at very convenient.
Very convenient, and yeah, it's 100% between those two categories.
It's positive. And then finally, related to your organization, how useful were the recent roundtable feature presentations for you or your organization? Some good activity there.
Good, thank you.
And here we go.
Thank you. Yeah, 36% extremely, 43 very, 21 somewhat. So there is some degree of utility we can suss from this to these roundtables, which is what we try for. Thank you for your feedback. And again, if we will include in the follow-up email links to our SurveyMonkey poll. And I guess the final thing is, are there other groups here who would like to, or people who would like to make a very brief report out on progress in in your area? Please use the raise hand feature and we can unmute you to give again a quick verbal update. Ron Rosen.
I just want to remind people that next August will be the Appalachian Trail Vista at SUNY New Paltz, August 5 to 8. We certainly are looking for additional volunteers and potential people who might want to do hike leading, or we're also running excursions. They're going to bring them on both sides of the river. Thank you.
Ron, can you, is there a website that we can get information from?
atvista2022.org.
Could you put that in the chat as well?
I will do that.
Okay, and we'll get that out to people as well. Thank you, Ron. Is there anyone else that would like to report? Don't hold back, folks. It's all good. Is Andy Beer still on? Does he have anything to report? He's only got a statewide trail system that's recently come online. Great. Well, nothing heard. Again, thank you very much for we're about 5 or 7 minutes over time. Thanks again for attending our Winnakee Dutchess Trails Roundtable. If you have thoughts about roundtable subjects you would like to hear about, please send them to us. Again, any idea we will entertain. There's an opportunity to do that. And again, the SurveyMonkey poll that you will see. If you're on our email list, you will get that stuff. If you're not on our email list, how are we receiving emails? We can add you to that list. You again, if you have people, let me see.
Oh, Carl.
Yes.
I think you were going to also, we're using my email right now if anybody wanted to contact me, because I've been sending out the emails for the notices.
Okay.
But we wanted to also share our Facebook, our
right.
Winnakee Dutchess Trails Roundtable Facebook page. for people to get a hold of us as well and to look for updates and notices and shares.
Right. If you're on Facebook, you can go on Facebook, search for Winnakee Dutchess Trails Roundtable, and we will pop up. And we'll put that link in the follow-up email to you as well. Please
Right.
like us as an organization and follow us. We've had a problem with Facebook. We had an earlier Facebook page that we lost our admin privileges to, and I've got tomorrow morning, I'm going to be on the phone to Facebook to try and see what we can do to remedy that. Meanwhile, it has been a powerful outreach tool, and we hope to get it back online again. So again, thanks all from our event organizers here. My personal thanks to the team as well. We hope to keep doing this. And again, the next roundtable will be Tuesday, January 18, 2022. And we look forward to seeing you then. Again, if you have any ideas for things that you'd like to hear about, pop us an email, give us a survey result, things like that. And or if you'd like to present, let us know. Okay, thanks again, all.
Yes, thanks, everybody.
Happy
Very
progress.
informative. Thank
Great
you.
meeting.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.